CVS,
We
more
everywhere.
CVS coming, Rite Aid, and Target.com, Ulta.com, and we're in 100 Ulta stores.
Wow, congratulations. And Alta is on the call right now. So
Yes, Ulta.
thank you.
We are saluting Ulta. I'm running over there today to see what's happening at the one on Michigan Avenue here in Chicago.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so, so very
You're
much. And you
welcome. You guys
must
have a
come
great
back. Yes.
conference. Have a great conference and enjoy. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're such an inspiration.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Wow. Well, that was amazing. So Nanette, I will transition to you because we're prepping for our next session. And by the way, I'll go ahead and say this. This is our first webinar. So we are trying to be as smooth as possible, but show some grace. Show us some grace. And shout out to everyone who's tuning in right now. The number keeps growing. So thank you. All right, Nanette, it's yours.
Awesome. So we were going to have a break, but I really feel like we can just keep it rolling into our next session. I think the momentum is here with the tone set by Desiree. So I do want to introduce our next session. And the next session is called The Future of Retail. And Angel Beasley is here on the call. That's going to take us through a presentation. But before I let her do that, just a quick intro on the session and Angel. So for most brand founders, navigating the retail landscape is a complete minefield. And in this session, Angel, who is the merchandising director for specialty hair at Walmart, will take us through her advice for brand founders and how to meet the demands of a changing consumer landscape and prepare to launch and, more importantly, win, as Desiree mentioned, at retail. Angel is a self-proclaimed retail enthusiast, and as the merchandising director for specialty hair for the #1 Fortune 500 company, Walmart, she gets to lead her team to flex their innovative and analytic muscles, delivering business results in an ever-changing retail environment. She uses that passion for hair and beauty to manage a billion-dollar business while pushing for equality down the hair aisle. And so now, welcome Angel Beasley to take us through the session of the future of retail.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here and absolutely inspired by Desiree. We get the pleasure of working with her at Walmart, so it's good to see her growing to own Fashion Fair. I'm going to take a second to share my screen. Hopefully, I'm able to do that. I don't think I have the ability. Can somebody allow me to? Oh, there we go. Bear with me. Here we go. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
We can.
Awesome. So, like I said, excited to be here to share really the momentum that's happening in retail right now. So I titled This Is Your Moment, How to Win in Retail. The reason I'm saying this is your moment, like Desiree mentioned just a minute ago, because it is our moment, not just for brands and our suppliers, but also for women, executive women, Black women that are in retail. So before I jump into that, I want to give you a little history about myself. I was born in 1981, so this was me in 1984. And as you can see, from a very young age, I was 3 years old, in my grandmother's makeup, sneaking, they caught me, putting the makeup on. But I've always had a passion for beauty, especially Black beauty, whether it was makeup or hair, or how I was a dancer, how we graced the stage with beautiful ballet and dances. So that passion has definitely run through my career. I used to own a dance studio out of college. I then went into proprietary education, which had nothing to do with what I was passionate about. Moved back to Arkansas, where I grew up. I was born in Louisiana, but grew up in Arkansas to start at Walmart. So I started in the marketing department, getting to work with a lot of big CPG suppliers and learning the business from that perspective. Moved into visual merchandising, where it really hit my passion point of making things look good in the store and home and outdoor living. I had a stint as a beer buyer, which is a very interesting job to have. I drank way too much and gained a lot of weight. However, it set my trajectory to really understand merchandising, no matter what product it is. From there, I left Walmart for a little bit and I went into digital marketing. So I worked for a startup company out of New York where we sold business to business. And then later went to Anheuser-Busch, back in beer, but on the marketing sales side. So have had a lot of experience at different companies of how they work, how they move. And then I came back to Walmart about 2 years ago to run specialty hair care. At that time, it was called multicultural hair care. So the desks that I have are hair accessories, hair tools, textured hair care and beauty aids, Latinx personal care, and most recently, I gained wig and weave. And then over the summer, not only have responsibility for the store side of the business, but also .com side of the business. I say all this is to say that any room I've stepped in the corporate America world, I usually am the only one that looks like me, except for in the multicultural space. That's where we have a lot of fun because I walk in and it's a bunch of bad A Black women at the table with me. But majority of the time, I'm the only one, and it can become intimidating and it feels almost suppressive. However, what I've realized, especially in the past year, is that my voice can be heard and people want to listen because the perspective of a Black woman is so unique. It's so different. Honestly, it's cutting edge, and it's where the trend is. And so I'm going to encourage you as we go through this that you guys can step into that. And this is our moment to really shine. So let's fast forward to 12 years ago. This is when I really first started seeing the shift in the consciousness of our culture. Does anybody know what happened 12 years ago? Probably the most historic thing we've experienced in recent history as a Black culture. I can't see any comments, so if you're commenting that President Barack Obama was inaugurated, you are correct. Did people comment? Can you all give me a thumbs up for the people I can see on the screen? Okay. That was the first time we saw somebody Black in a Black family with Michelle Obama with her arms out, muscles showing, hair looking bad, a sister in the White House. And that's really when I started to see the shift in corporate America, people accepting our voices a little more. However, for brands, it was still very difficult to get into big retail. A couple of reasons. I like to say the pyramid was steep, meaning you didn't have the connections to know who to talk to. Manufacturing was a lot more difficult at that time. There wasn't access to be able to produce products as they are now. Sourcing was difficult, being able to find the bottle to put the products in. So we had a few brands that started to really make way, but not the boom that we're seeing today. So this is a quote from a white male. And at that time, he came out and said, "Opportunities don't happen, you create them." And I wanted to put this on here because that's not always the case for us. We are doing a lot of good stuff, but opportunities that we're trying to create aren't being created because the space hasn't been made for us. Let's fast forward to now. Now is the moment. When the murder of George Floyd happened, and I know this probably impacted you significantly, it really affected me from personally, you know, I have a Black son, I have a Black husband, I'm Black. So I remember coming into work that week, I was doing line reviews with my suppliers, and that's the moment where supplier comes to present their products to try to get on the shelves. It's a big moment. It's like the Super Bowl for any brand to come present to a retailer. And that week was so difficult, having to sit on the calls and try to be professional when all I wanted to do was break down. And honestly, I did break down. I had several calls where I just had to stop and say, let's address what's happening in our country right now. Let's talk about it before you present your items, because this is what matters. Out of that moment, we at Walmart decided, because we have a diverse group of people, we decided to use our voices from marketing to merchandising and anywhere in between to say, how do we stand up for against injustices in the way that we can? So for me, it was in the beauty space. How can I make Black-owned brands more relevant, more get more attention, have more space on the shelf? And that happened across the entire retail world. Sharon C. started Pull Up for Change. She called all these executives, all these companies to action, all the Sephoras of the world, the Ultas of the world, called all of us to action to say, now what you gonna do? You're talking a good game, but are you gonna be about something? So that's why I say right now is your moment. Number one, you have the ear all the way up to CEOs of big companies are on boards and they're listening, and people are finally getting an aha moment like, oh, y'all aren't treated correctly. There is inequality and there is extra things that we need to do to put you in a position to have economic growth. You have the ear. Second biggest thing is that you have the spice. Like the spice is there, the products that you're developing, the way you're coming to market, the trends that you're setting are really, really driving the need for the products in the store. And then more than anything, the customers are telling us this is what they want. And any good retailer is listening to their customer. So I say that to say, not only Walmart, but if you go to Target's page, and if Target's on the call, I do stock everything you guys do because you are doing some great work. If the media is in here, do not record me talking about Target, but I do have to shout out the work that they are doing for Black-owned businesses and the Black consumer. If you look what Ulta has done, not only for Black consumers, but for Pride moments, for Hispanic Heritage Month, Sephora has a Black-owned page, and it crosses all across the NBA. The NBA is showing up with Black Lives Matter shirts on, and the women's WNBA is showing up with Say Her Name shirts on. So this is your time, and we are here for it. Not only are white people shifting, but Black people in corporate America are using their voices in ways that they haven't ever done it before. And so not only can you come in with great products, you can actually affect change within organizations by not just selling stuff to us, but lending your voice as well. So let's get into the fun stuff. And if people are asking questions, Nanette, feel free to stop me as we go along. But how do you win? So that's a question a lot of suppliers come and ask me. Some, of course, know what they're doing and they're great at what they do. But I get the chance to work with big companies like Unilever, P&G, L'Oreal. So I see both sides of the scope of how a big organization can scale and do things very, very innovative because they have all the science behind it. They have the dollars to spend on marketing, but I also see the other end of small indie brands that are really nimble, they're niche, and they have an audience that they speak really well to. So I'll go through three things that I think will, that you probably already know, but just reassurance that I'm thinking the same thing of how you can win in retail. This is a no-brainer. Create products that matter. So whenever I meet with brands, I'm looking through the lens of where are my gaps? Where are my gaps in the store? Where are my customer gaps? Where do I want to grow? And then a lens at what does my competition do? And so when products come with these new innovations that are looking at the business differently, that hasn't been looked at before, this is when it's like, oh, it's time to grab them. It's time to pull them in. We want them. And we end up actually chasing brands versus brands chasing us. And that's a big dynamic shift that has happened. I've seen over the past 18 months is that now brands really can set themselves up because they're doing they have such great product innovation that we are sliding in people's DMs on Instagram. People probably think we're crazy because it's coming from my personal page to DM somebody. They're like, is this legit? Is this person real? But we are chasing brands in that manner these days versus you guys coming to us at that one time a year for a line view or ECRM or whatever conference there is to meet with us for us to say, maybe, or you get no feedback, no anything. That dynamic has shifted because of the product innovation that's happening. And I just want to give one great example with Uma, Sharon's brand. This brand, like, we talk about it all the time in the office because she set the world on fire when she came out with this. Clean products, inclusive. Her packaging is sustainable for the most part. Like every key element, the colors are awesome. Then from a branding perspective, like the brand is hot, it's different. Even when you see it in mass reach or prestige like stores, it pops. It's different than all the other things that are out there. So we're chasing her versus her chasing us just because of the things that she's done with the product development. And the thing I love about this brand is that it happens to be Black and it's not necessarily just for Black people, it's for all. So it is a brand that we put as a top tier brand, not Black owned brand, just a top tier brand that we want to go after. Build your community. So 10 years ago, this didn't matter. You remember when Facebook first came out, you were like, who is it? You had to do a whole history check on people before you accepted them to be your friend on Facebook. That world has changed where people are building a real community and having real conversations through social media, through meetups when we could meet in person, through activations to really engage their customers before they even go into retail. And I think this is like the biggest aha and unlock for small brands that you guys can do before you even think about going into retail. And this is something that the big suppliers cannot do because they don't have that real person, authentic voice. I mean, even as Walmart, we have a hard time, like, how do we connect with our consumer when we're this big giant company? We have 4,500 stores. We have 140,000 items in a store. We got 160 million people coming to the store every day. But if you looked at our social media presence, it's we have a lot of followers, but the engagement's not there. You go to somebody else's page like Whitney, who page, she's got almost 1 million followers. Her YouTube video views are off the charts. The engagement is crazy. And, you know, she will actually DM you back. I don't know if it's her or it's her team, but I feel like she's talking to me when you ask her questions. And she was able to build this community before the brand even came. And that is really powerful because those people will be your cheerleaders that talk about your brand, that go buy your brand, that tell their friends to go buy your brand. And when you come to Walmart or any retailer to present and talk about what your brand is doing, like lead with that there is a social community that you are supporting, not just to sell products, but to build people up in whatever area that you believe in, whether that's sustainability, whether that's just changing the conversation about Black beauty, whether it's about healthy hair, whether it's about how to have great skin on Zoom without a filter, whatever that is your power, and that is your juice. So knowing when to expand or to even go into retail, that is probably the hardest thing as a business to understand when to do and when not to do. There's so many implications about going into a large retailer or mass retailer, because you've heard stories of people coming in for 12 months and then they're out. That's because they didn't have the infrastructure prepared for them. But I will say also, on the back of it, end of this, you have a lot of retailers being more patient, working with suppliers to actually incubate them, whether that's in test stores, whether that's getting them connected to investors, whether that's connecting them with the right behind the scenes work, item setup, which is ridiculous, supply chain, which can make or break your business if you're in stock, out of stock, and the cost of that transportation. Manufacturing, connecting you to manufacturers. I had a brand, not a Black-owned brand, but a small woman-owned brand that I worked with, and they had a great D2C business. They sell to a lot of boutiques. They're in Whole Foods, so they have a bit of the supply chain down. However, they've never scaled to the Walmart size. And so I work with them to actually connect them with a manufacturer in China. You have a lot of retailers now that are so much wanting to have exclusive brands or fun products that they are willing to develop and take their time with you on getting into retail. I would say the number one thing is making sure that your finance back end of the house, that you understand that piece. You understand how much it costs to set up an account with a big retailer, because there's a lot of hidden costs that a lot of people aren't aware of. For example, if we delete an item, there's going to be a cost associated for markdowns. Like, are you planned for that? And if you aren't, that's okay. Retail might not be where you want to be today, but it's definitely something that you could work towards in the next 2, 3, or even 12 months. Starting online is a great way to test and learn with a retailer, because you can get the same exposure from a marketing perspective, but your inventory implications and how much inventory you have to hold, you're not holding millions of dollars of inventory to push to stores. You're sending a few cases to an FC, but they can still make a huge splash with you. And then also talking to retailers about their test stores. We, in the textured hair category, for example, have 250 test stores in the Southeast market, where we know it over indexes with the African-American consumer, just for that, to be able to bring in brands quickly, test them, and help them scale. So I want to talk about this moment. I don't know if you guys saw Mielle Organics signed a deal with Megan Thee Stallion, which I was so excited about, because this is a brand that I've been working with, and a lot of other retailers work with as well. But I've seen their growth, like triple-digit growth year after year after year. And now they've had this big moment where they're even going to grow even further. So I say that to say, if you go into retail, really prepare. I mean, they've had years of preparing. They've had years of really good formulation. They've had years of connecting to their consumer. And now this moment has happened when Megan Thee Stallion goes on to social media and says they're going to be helping her on her natural hair journey, and she's using the drops. And they're in prime position to explode and grow their brand from a small brand to a mid-sized to large brand. So encourage you that I just was listening to Nipsey Hussle say, don't try to build the wall, just stack the brick. One brick at a time. And before you know it, you will have the wall. And that's where Mielle is. It's a great example, great story. I would check her out because she's done a lot of good work to get to where she is today. Lastly, which is the biggest unlock for us as a community, especially a community of Black women in beauty. I love that we have this organization to be able to connect us because it's so important. But our unity is our strength and our diversity is our power. So I just want to leave you with, if we could do this together, and Desiree said the same thing. I was so glad that she was saying that. If we can do this together, regardless if I work at Walmart and you're a supplier and I didn't take you last year, or you're competitor with this person, like there is some intellect and some knowledge that we have got to share collectively and be the voice in the room. And I will use one example. Recently, we launched our Black-owned beauty brand page where we have a collection of Black-owned brands, just because of the need that we saw. Of course, our competitors have already gone there, but we are really passionate about growing Black-owned brands. But that work took so many of us in Walmart, grassroots effort to do it. No CEO, no CMO, no executive came and said, hey guys, I think you should do this. But it was a ground up approach where we worked with our Walmart marketing team that gave $2 million to support the program for suppliers for advertising that they didn't have to pay for. We created the page and highlighted the brands without, usually we charge brands for that. Large brands have to, pay for that. We didn't charge brands for that. We sat down with Kim Kimball that we recently launched, and she gave us video content to put on the page. So it was a collective effort across multiple people to get it done. And we got advice from our suppliers on how we should move, what we should do, what we should say before we went out. And the days of doing things in a silo aren't going to work. So my biggest challenge is to be intentional about connecting. I wish I could be intentional about connecting, and the sky's the limit for what we can do. I'll say
I
thank
hear
you.
you.
Thank you. I wanted to put a picture of me back in the day when I thought I was styling with this sunflower dress and this haircut. A little girl born in Louisiana, from country Arkansas. Y'all can hear my accent. The ability to be in the room with some of the most powerful women in beauty is such a blessing. And I want to thank you guys for that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Angel. Wow, that was so informative. I was busy taking notes, so I'm hoping everybody was taking notes as well. This was really, really amazing. Thank you for putting this together. So why don't we go to some questions? I know we have a few questions. Nanette, did you want to take that over?
Sure. So we've got a question for you, Angel, from Khadija Doso, owner of Doso Beauty. And she's got a question about the wig and weave category that you mentioned at Walmart. And so her question is, can you touch on what the scope of that sector looks like and what are some attributes that you're seeking in wig and weave brands?
So if you go to Walmart.com right now, you'll be like, they are not in the business of wig and weave because it's a hot mess. However, I have an amazing associate merchant, Kiana Thompson, that has a strategy. She's super passionate about wig and weave. She's young, and everybody's wearing wigs that are young right now. She has a really strong strategy to grow synthetic and real hair, whether that's bundles or wigs. So we don't show up as, right now it looks more like Halloween wigs or, extensions that more white women would wear. So we're shifting that to really go after the African-American consumer in that space. Do you have a brand? Because we can talk to you.
Awesome. We've got one more question, and I'll end this after that. But Gia is asking, are there any key points to jot down to make sure that you are ready for retail? Somewhat of a checklist for Black beauty brands that are considering entering retail.
I would say there probably is a high level checklist. Like, I have the infrastructure to be able to ship. I can produce product. I'm not still making products out of my home. A lot of brands started that way, like Cam Rose, which is an amazing brand. However, for her to scale, she couldn't still be making it out of her home and have consistency with the product. So do I have a manufacturer I trust that has my formulations down? Do I have money to support marketing? Um, do I have my brand set up where the margin is competitive, but I'm not going broke? A lot of brands, especially going into mass, the margins are so thin that they end up not making money. So making sure your structure is right, you've cut cost out as much as possible. Like Walmart, we're EDLP, EDLC. So we're bare bones as far as running the business. That's what made us infamous and have such a great business model. But cutting those things out that you don't need, that are going to drain your profitability, would be one. And then having a team. If you're still trying to do it by yourself, it's going to be very difficult to move at the pace that you need to move in mass retail. It's a very fast paced operation. You're always going to be doing things. So having a structure, whether that's a marketing person, an operations person, is extremely important, finance. And then that frees you, if you're the creative side of the business, which I see a lot of the Black owned brands, the CEO and founder is the creator of all the ideas. You've got to free up space for your mind to still be able to create.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Angel. This was a super informative session.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. So I think we're gonna, shall we just have a quick pause as we get ready for our panel, our next panel?
Yeah, ladies, let's take a about 5-minute break, and we'll be back here in about 5 minutes with our next session. Thank you, guys. We'll have the music playing, don't worry.